If you click this video, I'm sorry that you aren't really enjoying your job right now. But how do you know that you're actually working in a toxic work environment? Or how do you know that you just don't like your job and you should be changing careers altogether? To see if you actually hate the job itself and you should consider changing careers altogether, I highly suggest you watch this video right over here that I made on the channel. Go ahead, I'll pause right now and wait for you to watch it. Okay, so if you watch that video, you probably are thinking, nope, I love my job itself. I just need to know if my boss and my workplace is toxic. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through some clear-cut signs that you are unfortunately working in a toxic work environment and what to do about it. And I also want to point out a very clear and important distinction here. A toxic work environment should apply to the entire company and culture. So just simply changing teams or getting a new manager will not fix your situation. And that is what we need to figure out by watching this video today, is if it's a truly toxic work environment at the entire company altogether. And if you want more career tips just like this, make sure you click subscribe down below because I post weekly career videos up on this channel, or share this with a friend who is complaining about their job right now. So the first sign that you might be working in a toxic work environment is when you go to the office and you look at your coworkers and your peers and people in the office. Do they seem happy? Are they cheerful? Do they have a positive expression? Can you feel their energy? Or does everybody kind of look sad and disheveled? When I did an on-site interview at my current company, this was honestly the first thing that I noticed when I was walking around the campus and getting lunch with my interviewer. Everyone there just seemed so happy, and it was such a drastic change from my previous company that I knew this was a place that I wanted to work at. And trust me, when I was doing consulting, I worked at a lot of different companies on sites all across the United States and in different industries. And trust me, you can tell when someone is not happy at work just by feeling the vibe and looking around the office. Now, another thing to be thinking about is at your company, in your team, at your culture, do people like to help each other? Are they rewarded and encouraged to help other people with their work? Do people share the accomplishments of others on their teams and share and give credit when projects are completed? If not, you might be in a toxic work environment. Unfortunately, there are some companies that have HR policies where they will fire the bottom 25% of the company every single year. And in my opinion, this does not breed a positive work culture. And in fact, it creates a toxic work environment. Because if you think about it, if 1 out of 4 of you are going to be fired this year, you have no incentive to help other people on your team. Because if you help someone accomplish something, that may make them look better than you, and then you may be the one that gets fired this year. So you need to be thinking about how the company culture and policies are established, and if they would breed a positive or toxic work culture. Next, you should ask yourself, does your company have high turnover across all teams? If you're not sure, you should set up a LinkedIn job alert for your company, and you should check every once in a while and look at the hiring trends and job postings for your company. Do you see the same job posting up all the time? Do you see turnover on your team all the time? If you're not a manager, you may not notice this because you're probably always heads down trying to get your work done. But this is a really critical thing to think about, is if you have high turnover at your company, and keep in mind, most HR companies, most CHROs, most executives will not share the turnover rate at their company. And if anything, they'll just be looking at it from year over year. And just having a really high turnover rate consistently all the time is not going to be a red flag for them. So you need to be proactive and start looking and trying to determine what is the actual turnover rate at your company by looking at the job postings that are consistently up on their job boards. Next, are you paid for your performance? Do you see a true correlation and benefit to working hard, working extra, and getting a bigger bonus or more stock or more equity grant refreshes at the end of the year? If you don't feel like you are being proportionally rewarded for the amount of work and effort you put in, then you could be working in a place with a toxic work environment. Now, I'm not saying that you should always get promoted whenever you're working extra, because we got to be realistic here. Not everybody can get promoted every single year. But if you're not being promoted, are you at least being paid and rewarded for the amount of effort you are putting in? If you are not, then you need to consider making a switch. The next thing to consider is, does your company allow you to set boundaries when it comes to your personal and professional life? Are you actually able to take time to take care of your family if something comes up? Now, I know this one can be a little bit tricky because some industries and professions naturally have better work-life balance than others. Some professions actually require you to work a whole lot more, like management consulting or investment banking. So you do need to take this and make sure that your expectations here are set relative to the industry and the role that you are in. But no matter what happens, you should always be allowed to take care of emergencies and family matters as they come up. Now, I know companies may have certain policies when it comes to working remotely or for handling personal leave or taking sick days if you were to get extremely ill, but is your company also a little bit flexible on some of those policies if there is a true emergency and a real business case for you to take time for yourself or for your family? If your company does not allow you to do this, then this is a toxic work culture. Next, does your upper management or executive team at your company communicate with the rest of the company to share updates and be transparent? Does your leadership team allow you to have a Q&A session where you can ask them direct questions about things that are top of mind for you? If your company's leadership team doesn't allow this type of transparency, you need to ask yourself, why would that be? You need to ask yourself if, as an employee, do you have a true voice at the company? You may not be able to get to talk to the CEO if you work at a huge company, but you should at least have some visibility and be able to ask questions, either directly or indirectly, to the executive of your particular function or within your particular group. Now, this next sign of a toxic work culture is actually very telling, and this is something you need to be aware of. And what you need to understand or find out at your company is, how do they treat folks who are underperforming? Now, we got to be honest here. We all know somebody at work or within our team that isn't performing as well or as good as the other people. And this is normal because at every company, you're going to have high performers, you're going to have a bunch of folks in the middle, and then you're going to have some underperformers. Hopefully, you don't have a lot of those underperformers, and hopefully it's not you, but you need to be understanding, how does your company and your boss treat folks who are underperforming? Because you got to remember, if someone is underperforming, it's not always 100% their fault and they're a bad employee. There could be things that are happening in their personal life that are now affecting their work. Or maybe they are being mistreated at work, and this is allowing or forcing them to underperform because they feel intimidated or they don't feel like they have psychological safety. So you really need to understand, how does your company and your boss handle those people who are underperforming? Do they shame them? Or do they give them support and structure and allow them to build themselves back up so they can improve their performance over time? Or does your company simply fire you as soon as someone looks like they are potentially underperforming without investigating why? Does your company show sympathy? That is what you need to understand and find out. The next thing to look at and consider is how your company treats folks who make mistakes, or even if you were to make a mistake at your job. Because we got to be honest, if you're working at a company for years, it's impossible to say that you're never going to make one mistake while you are at work. But it's not that part that matters and determines a toxic workplace. It's what happens after that mistake happens. Does your company and culture allow you to actually fix that mistake? Or do they use you as a bad example and use you as a scapegoat and talk about your mistakes and make it publicly known across the team or across the company? That is the sign of a toxic work culture. And of course, another really big sign of a toxic work culture is if you notice any type of discrimination or bias that is happening at work. This could be related to race, gender, age, immigration status, or even based on personal medical issues like pregnancy. A lot of these signs will become very apparent if you ever need to start hiring for a role on your team or we're helping out with interviews. If people are talking about not hiring someone purely because of their race, or about lowering the bar, or about not wanting to hire someone because they need a visa sponsorship, or not wanting to hire someone because they're going to take maternity leave and they would not be able to work for 6 months, these are some critical signs that you need to take note of. Okay, so if you see any of these signs at work, especially multiple of these signs at work, you are probably in a toxic work culture. And the only real way to solve this problem is for you to leave that company. Because remember, the toxic work culture is persistent throughout the entire organization. So simply getting a new job internally is not going to fix this. So don't try to stick it out, or don't listen to those false promises from your manager or manager who tells you that things will get better and they will work on it. Because typically a toxic work culture is pervasive and persistent, and it stems from the top down. And a lot of these false promises are reasons why people stick in their job a little too long, and they pass up on great job opportunities that come in the meantime. So what I recommend you do instead is to start to work a little bit less at your day job, knowing that a potential exit is coming, and use that time instead to prepare, get your resume ready, and prepare for interviews so that you can get a new job at a different company where there isn't a toxic work culture. And if you want help writing an awesome resume so you can catch the attention of recruiters and get more interviews, you're going to want to watch this video right here. Thank you all for watching. Drop a comment below what other videos you want us to make. I do read all the comments, and I want to make sure we are as helpful for you as possible. Thank you again, and don't be afraid to shake things up.